$50. $50 is all it takes to start recording your audiobook for Audible. I'm Robert Plank, dfynarration.com, and I want to narrate and publish your book for Audible. And on the off chance you say, my mind is so made up, I want to be the person that narrates my own book as the author. It's so important that I'm the voice of my book. Hey, that's great. More power to you. I'm going to help you do that right now in this video. I'll show you the exact microphone I'm using right now. It's literally only $50. What a time to be alive. And I'll show you the software that I use. It's called Audacity. And I'm not going to get into all of the exact steps to successfully process your book for Audible. It would take like half an hour to show you, but I will show you how to record, because something that I provide for authors is if you're really that dead set on recording your own book, great, watch this video, record your book, send me the raw audio files, and pay me a one-time fee, and I'll get your book with you having narrated onto Audible, and we'll have fun. We'll get it done. So let me show you this. All right, here's the big item. It's called a Samson, not Samsung, but Samson C01U. I don't know why it's so cheap. I have another computer where I have a $120 version of this with it has more switches, but this is just about the same thing. $50, and it's hard to go wrong. It plugs into your USB port, and it's better than the microphone built into your computer for sure. And are there better microphones? Of course there are, right? There's microphones that are $4,000 and are gold plated, but this will be the best bang for your buck. And it's definitely not Plantronics, it's definitely not Rode, but this will get it done. Samson C01U Pro, $50, plugs into USB. It even comes with a little stand, as you can see, so it just sits on your table, on your desk, and you talk into it. And if you really want to get fancy, what I also did is get an arm, and I believe I got the large size. Oh, no, I got the medium size. So you get one of these arms, and it cinches to your table, and then what you do is it just screws into the end there, and then you kind of loop the cord around the arm, and you can have the microphone out of the way. Great if you also plan to do podcasting. So a $50 microphone, $35 arm, which is optional, and then you might need a slightly more powerful computer if you're recording on a laptop. I got one of these mini PCs, and I'm kicking myself because I got this $230 version, and then wouldn't you know, there's a $250 that it's got so much better stuff, right? It's a lot better. It's got more ports, got more RAM. I guess that's next year's purchase, but still, it's amazing how much they can pack into little things. But if you're on a slow computer, old computer, laptop, then get this, especially because some people, especially a laptop, has a loud fan, and noise is going to be very important when you record. Make sure you're in a quiet space. If you can tape foam padding to the walls, I think if we search foam padding squares, I resisted this, and I'm currently in a temporary space, but at my office at home, there are these, I don't know what you'd search, soundproofing. Yeah, you can just get a box of these, right? And then you just stick them to the wall. I think some have an adhesive even, or just use double-sided tape and stick them to the wall, and that will prevent the problem of when you speak and the audio reflects back and it echoes. But anyway, enough of the geekiness. We're not here for a science lesson. We're here to figure out how to narrate our book for Audible. You'll use acx.com, but that's also getting ahead of ourselves. We're just focusing only on the logistics of recording. So I use a free tool called Audacity. It has versions for Windows and Mac. It's been around for so many years. It's so amazing. It does so much, completely free. AudacityTeam.org, audacityteam.org. Go to download, go to Windows, install it. And here is what we end up going to. If we open up Audacity, give it a moment. I'll walk you through it. And so as we're opening Audacity, one thing I want to do is I want to go to the bottom of my Windows area and right click and go Sound Settings. And I want to make sure of a couple things. Okay, so we have our input. Here's our microphone. I want to make sure the volume's at 100%. And I want to make sure that the input volume there is at 100%. And then I believe we should turn off as many audio enhancements as possible. And anytime you see in your settings for any like processing or noise reduction, just turn all that sort of stuff off. And somewhere in Windows, there's a setting to allow other programs to decrease the volume and turn that off. We want to turn off any kind of, like Zoom especially, any of the software that tries to be helpful and adjust the volume, turn it all off because we want to record using Audacity instead. So here's what Audacity looks like, right? Pretty blank, pretty normal. And what we want to do, and it's kind of like when you open up a word processor, right? There's nothing to do. What we want to do is go to Tracks, Add New, Stereo Track. And here we go. And here's how, and then what we do is, let's make sure we're recording the correct device. So go to Edit, Preferences. And in Audio Settings, let's make sure that the device we're recording from is our Samson C01U. Really important that you're not recording from some built-in microphone. And I believe that's the only setting we need whatsoever in Audacity just right out of the gate. Yeah, I don't think we need anything besides that. So let me walk you through this. All right, so what we do is we create tracks. And there's two ways to use a track, right? Audacity, they want to appeal to everybody. So there's narrators and there's musicians. And if you are making music, you have like multiple layers of your tracks, right? You have the vocals, you have the drums, you have the instruments. So if you're a musician, then you would you'd click on this track and you click on record and you would say a bunch of stuff right here. Then you would go to Tracks, Add New, Stereo Track, and then you go here and you just do solo focusing on this track. You click record and you'd say some other stuff right there. And when you're a musician, and then you'd uncheck the solo, and then you'd go back to the beginning, and you'd play these both, record, and you'd say some other stuff, a bunch of stuff right here. So you just see how there's two versions of me playing at the same time. So but we're not musicians, right? And if we're narrators, we only want to focus on one audio track at a time. And that means that each audio track in Audible and Audacity is a chapter of your book, right? So what we're going to do here is, instead of playing all that at once, we say Tracks, Add New, Stereo Track, and then go to these three dots, Rename Track, and you call this the introduction. And then we click on Solo, click into the track itself. I like to hit the home key, that way we're just at the very beginning. Then we click Record or R, and then here's where we're speaking, and here's where we're recording our introductory track. Now, if you ever get messed up with Audacity, I believe there's a way to reset all of these. Sometimes I accidentally click on something. So I believe if you ever mess up, just go to View Toolbars, Reset Toolbars, and it'll just reset everything to the default. But another way to get stuck is if you accidentally click on one of these other weird tools. There's like a pencil and all that. So the only tool we ever want is this selection tool. So if you ever get kind of out of whack, and then you also might accidentally mess with these, like the volume or the pan left and right, and you might accidentally like zoom in or out, like it might look like that. And so if any of that happens, just View Toolbars, Reset Toolbar, and do your best to get back to the beginning. Okay, so that's Audacity. Those are tracks. That's how to make a track, and then we name it something, and then we click on record and we talk, and then you record as much as you want over here. And say you messed up a line, you just go and play back, recording our introduction. And let's say this is where I messed up. You just highlight this, and you click on the delete, not backspace, click delete. And then right where you are, you just click R, and then you speak up again where you left off. And this messing up in narrating happens like every minute or so, right? If you record a 30-minute long chapter, you're probably going to mess up 30 times, if not more. The more and longer you narrate, the less mistakes that you make, but you still make mistakes. Plus, as you narrate, you'll start to notice the sounds around you, car going by, someone's lawnmower mowing, and those little items will be picked up. And so we want to have as quiet of a room as possible. We do have ways when we process the audio to remove as much as those quiet noises as we can, but some things cannot be taken out. So we need to do our best to record as clean as possible and not fix it in the mix, as the kids say. So that's how we would record that introduction track, and then we go and say add new stereo track, and then go and rename track, call this chapter 1. And now here's why I went on that long rant about the solos, because if you forget to click solo and you just start recording, it will try to play your introduction while you speak out chapter 1, I believe. Oh, well, it's just, let me try to record. Okay, well, I don't know. It's not good. So to keep things simple, just only work on one track at a time and use that solo button to make sure that you are just working on those tracks. And so there's clicking the solo button, and there's clicking in this kind of empty space in between to work on different tracks at a time. And this is what you'll end up creating, is a track for your introduction chapter, click on solo, a track for your chapter, and make sure to be careful. If you unclick solo, it will play all the tracks. So I believe if we start recording, like you might end up be recording on the track that you don't want and making a mess. So it will be awkward at first. You might make some of these mistakes. Just make sure that you click on solo and be sure to click on the track that you want and kind of click on the ends, and then make sure to be speaking in that way and clean up as you go. So that takes care of recording and figuring out the different tracks. And then we'll actually be recording a brand new real audiobook in a minute, and I'll walk you through some of the rules that Audible has. But what we'll do is we'll record all these tracks, and let's say you record like 10, 20 chapters. What you do is when it's, and you go and you save project, okay, save the project for the first time. And the way I like to structure this is I have a different folder for each audiobook that I have. And then I go and I name this the project, and so I can then close that out. And whenever I get back to, when I want to resume my audiobook, I open up the manuscript, right? So we have like the Word document or the PDF that we're reading from. And then we also have this AUP3 file. This is the Audacity project. And they aren't the audio files that we'll need to process later, but it's just kind of like the sound all in one place. And so it's some huge file. But then when you do want to get the audios, the WAV file, so to speak, we do what's called dumping out, which means we click on solo and we unclick solo, making sure that we have unclicked all this stuff. We do a select all, so you see how now that they're all highlighted. You do file, export audio, and then you browse to where you want to export to. And we want to make sure, so let's browse and export to the folder we're working in. Oops, will that work? Okay. And then we want to make sure we're saving as a format WAV, stereo, signed 32-bit. And then here's the other tricky part, is I think by default it tries to do this entire project, and I think it tries to save everything all at once. It tries to do the musician way. So it sounds like the Borg, where there's like all these voices all at once. So we save multiple files, and leave all this the same. And so this will save, if you make sure to save as we're doing export audio, multiple files, split based on tracks, using each track name. And let me show you what we're about to do. So here's this folder we have with our manuscript and our Audacity folder. And what we'll do is, where did my Audacity go? Okay, I guess we can't switch to it. What we do is we click on export, and then if we look at our folder again, you see how now it added this chapter 1 and this introduction. And so if you want me to get your audio ready for Audible, this is all I need. I just need these .wav files, and it's definitely recommended that if you hire me to process and narrate your files for Audible, is record a little bit for me first. Record the first few minutes or the first couple of chapters and give those to me, and let me make sure that I can properly use them for Audible. And that probably goes for, even if you're hiring someone else to do this for you, just make sure you record a little bit first. All right, so that covers dumping out, technical term, just kidding. And that also covers Audacity and recording and using different tracks. Now let's work on an actual audiobook, right? So let's say I started a brand new Audacity and I want to record this audiobook, right? And this is called Becoming a Kamala by Dr. Kamala K. Mudley, okay? And I got all these pronunciations from her. I hope I know what I'm getting myself into, right? There's a lot of things to pronounce here. And that's why we can go back and redo part of the recording. And what we're doing here is we go to Amazon.com. And the first thing I like to do is find the book on Amazon, because I need to know the copyright information. So here we go, Becoming a Kamala. And we need to know who owns the copyright of this book and who the publisher is. So Freeling Publishing is the publisher. And we look at, well, I guess we already have the manuscript that she gave us, but it's copyright 2021 by Dr. Kamala K. Mudley. And make sure I'm saying that right. Mudley. Okay. And we'll make sure that we say it correctly. And you can always update your narration files later. If you notice there's a huge problem, you can always go back and re-upload. And something I tell authors many times is you can let me narrate it, and then when you have your audio files, we can replace my narration with yours and then change the narrator name to you, just so you know. But we say 2021 Dr. Kamala K. Mudley, and we need to make sure, and this is what messes a lot of people up, is that this, so the all the what's called the metadata has to match. So this name, Kamala Mudley, but Dr. Kamala K. Mudley needs to also match what we speak out. So for now, I'm going to base it on the cover, but I might need to change this when it comes time to upload. I'm not sure, but basically, let me check the Kindle version. Maybe that's different. Okay, that makes it simple. So we just, I'm telling you, so many middle initials have delayed audiobooks for so many weeks and months. So this printed author name needs to match what's on the cover, and it also needs to match what we're about to speak in the opening and closing credits. And what happens many times is that the cover doesn't match what's printed here, and Kindle allows it for the print book, but then when we do the audiobook, it doesn't match up, and then people are like, and Audible support is not that helpful. So this needs to match the cover, and that also needs to match what you say out loud. And I don't think you can change this. You can't easily change the author name. So if this is what's different, then you need to make the cover match, and then you need to speak it out correctly. I hope that made sense. And so what we're about to do is we need to speak out the opening credits, the retail sample, and the closing credits. Now the opening credits, we're going to say Becoming a Kamala, Become the Change You Want to See. Written by Dr. Kamala K. Madeli. Narrated by Robert Plank. So we say the title, subtitle, author name, narrator name. And then after that, we're going to speak out this part as the retail sample. And then we're going to say something similar for the closing credits. So before we get to explanatory, let me record this. And so here's what I like to do as far as setting up the windows is I like to take my Audacity window and drag it to the left side to stick it there. And then it gives me all these other choices and I stick it to that right side. So we have the recording there and the browser there. And then later on, when I go to record with the manuscript, I'll just stick this on the right side. That way I can see this side by side. And that's how we like to narrate. Now let me go back to my Audacity and say tracks, add new, stereo track, solo, rename this to opening credits. Let me make sure here. So we say Kamala. Yeah, I think I spoke to her and she said it's like Kamala, not like Harris. It's said different. And then Madeli. Okay. Kamala Madeli. I'm in for a lot of redos for this, but let's do this. Becoming a Kamala. Become the change you want to see. Written by Dr. Kamala K. Madeli. Narrated by Robert Plank. All right, painless enough. Opening credits. Then we do the tracks, add new, stereo track, and then I'll read this for the retail sample. And to even complicate it further, the retail sample needs to be 1 to 5 minutes long. And I'm not sure if this is enough to fill in 1 minute. And if not, it's okay, we'll read part of the book. But ideally, you want to read the Amazon book description, and you want it to be 1 to 5 minutes long. So let's try this. We'll go back to Audacity and say solo. And we'll call this retail sample. And then make sure to click, make sure we're solo, click on home. That way we're at the beginning of the track. And we'll read this text from the Amazon book page. My attempt to chronicle my life experiences was influenced by the fact that I did not want to forget what I had faced, whether it was a triumph or a low point for me, because each experience has helped me to become who I am today. These failures and successes have all contributed to my transformation, making me who I am becoming today. I have faced the challenges of life straight on, facing them all squarely, and obtaining all I achieved. Life has thrown me curveballs, sometimes even dung balls, but I have faced them bravely. And, during the course of life, I learned who I have been by my own yardstick, not by what the rest of the world believes success is. If you are someone aspiring to bigger things in life, messed up, right? Said 4 instead of 2. And something I recently realized is some people are stressed out about the word for word matching exactly. It doesn't have to match word for word, but if you notice you said a word wrong, just go back and redo it. Let's see. If you are someone aspiring for bigger things in life, or someone fighting a desperate situation, or even someone just bored of your ordinary life, I am sure my journey will inspire you. Dr. Kamala K. Madeli. All right, so just barely, right? Just barely over 1 minute. And a sentence is about 10 seconds. So 1 minute, we need about 6 sentences, more or less. Now we do the closing credits. And what we do for this, so we go solo, rename to closing credits. And then for closing credits, a little more involved. Technically, you can just say the end, technically. But I like to just do it properly. For the closing credits, we will say the title, subtitle, author name, narrator name. Then we will say copyright, year, then who owns the copyright of the book itself. Then we will say production copyright and who owns that. And almost all the time, these are just the same. You open up the first couple of pages of the book, see the copyright. If not, we try to see if we can suss it out from the page, like it might be Freeling Publishing. And the way that I usually do it is for the copyright of the book, I go by this, what's printed. So we'll say that Dr. Kamala K. Mudley is the copyright holder. And then we'll say that the production is copyright the publisher. And that's how publishers have almost always told me how to do it, is author has the copyright and then the publisher has the production copyright. Unless you open this book and if this copyright right here is just the publisher, we go with that. So the copyright is this, then the production copyright is the publisher. So here we go. This has been Becoming a Kamala. Become the change you want to see. Written by Dr. Kamala K. Mudley. Narrated by Robert Plank. Copyright 2024 Kamala. Shoot, it's 2021, isn't it? 2021. All right. Copyright 20. Copyright 2021 Dr. Kamala K. Mudley. Production copyright Freeling Publishing. Okay, so that takes care of the formalities. Opening credits, retail sample, closing credits. Now it's time to get to the meat of the book. And what I like to do, at least as far as when I have someone pay me for an audiobook, I record the first 15 minutes and then I deliver it as a single file and I just say, hey, do you like it so far? Anything to change, do over, or just proceed. That way, I don't do a whole book and someone doesn't like it. And so then we skip title page, table of contents. We skip things like a dedication page. We just start with the foreword or the introduction. And then we also do our best to mirror the table of contents. So just looking at this, I'll make a track called Note to the Reader. But and every time they say read, we say listen. So this is note to the listener. We make a track for preface, forward, and then if it says like chapter 3, whatever, we speak out the name of the chapter and then the contents of it. Or if it just is a chapter that has a word, that's how we speak it. And what you name your tracks and save your files does not make a difference. But what you do speak, as far as if you say chapter 1, etc., the beginning of every chapter, you have to say the name of the chapter and then what's in the chapter. I hope that makes sense. If not, it will make sense as we're doing this. So what I do then is you can name these whatever you want. I like to name my tracks like 0, 1, and then what the chapter is. That way I don't get them mixed up. And then if we're doing like the pre-chapters, like this note to the listener, I say 00A dash note to the listener. Okay, so we record this and here we go. Note to the listener. My attempt to chronicle my life experiences was influenced by the fact that I did not want to forget what I had faced, whether it was a triumph or a low point for me, because each experience has helped me to become who I am today. Okay, so I won't bore you with all the recording, but I'm going to pause this video and I'll narrate the first 15 minutes and then I'll get it merged and I'll get it processed and then I'll get it sent into the author. But I guess we can cut the video early, right? Because basically if you're just narrating, all you have to do is do all this, right? Opening credits, retail sample, closing credits, and then imagine I narrated like all the other chapters. You just uncheck the solo, you select all, you go file, export audio, you browse to where you want it, making sure to say multiple files, split based on tracks. We export all these files. We go and look at where we dumped all these. And then what you can do is just take all these files that you have here and right click, then say compress to zip file. Is that how we do it? I thought it was like send to shared folder or something. Send to compressed folder. That's how it's done in Windows. So you would do that. Okay, and then we call this, what's this called? Becoming a Kamala. And then what you do is, to get the file to me, you can do drive.google.com, or because it's probably a huge file, WeTransfer.com. And what you do here is you just, you say email to, and here's my email address, robertplank@gmail.com. You click on add files, and you upload that zip file that you just saved. And so that is how you could get those large files to me using WeTransfer. And that is how you record your own audiobook, by just kind of making it simple, and we're not overcomplicating it with how you process for Audible. There's tutorials on that. It's so many steps. It even changes a little bit. And then you even might have to do some tweaking just based on your own room and your own microphone. So complicated. Let's just focus on recording by installing Audacity, by getting a Samson C01U microphone, and you say track, add new stereo track, and then you click on solo and you speak out the opening credits, the retail sample, the closing credits, and then the individual chapters. You export them, send them to someone like me, and I will get your book onto Audible. Robert Plank saying, it is a lot of work, a lot of steps. That's why I have dfynarration.com, where I can narrate your book for Audible if you want me to. Audible, at the time we're recording this, does not allow AI voiceovers. Like, they won't take 11 labs, which also that will cost you like a few $100s anyway, just to create a recording that Audible won't accept, and they may ban your account if you upload it. I don't have that verified, but those are the stories that I have heard. And then Kindle does have some kind of one-click AI narration. I think it sounds terrible. They mispronounce so many words. It's hard enough for a human to pronounce all these words. Imagine an AI doing it. But anyway, that's how you record using Audacity. If you want help with this, send me a message. But in the meantime, like and subscribe so you don't miss any more videos like this one. Robert Plank, audiobook narrator and podcaster. That's how it's done. Talk to you soon.